Welcome once again to How to Relate to Anyone. Here is Dr. Orv Owens.
Well, I'll tell you what. What in this case is, how do you read fear motivations? Because if you can read people's fears, their motivations, you're able to lift them above their fears, and that opens their mind to a good working relationship, a good communication. And fear is a debilitating force, and it breaks down relationships, it breaks down communication, it creates hard feelings and hurt feelings and resentment, and getting even is a fear-motivated thing. So let's take a look at the fear motivations. We did the 5 motivational motivations early in this program, if you recall, and you might want to go back and view those again. But the 5 fears are all a part of and a basic of many fears. There's many fears, but in that lesson I break it down into 5 basic fears. We want to just revisit that a little bit and look at what you can do to deal with fear. Because if you can't deal with it, you're not going to have good working relationships. You're not going to have good sales relationships. You're not going to have good family relationships. Everything is based upon lifting those who have fear above their fear. Because fear has torment. That's a Bible verse. Or from a psychological frame of reference, fear creates a destruction of and a deterioration of your personage, your performance, and your presence. Fear is a destructive force. There's no value to fear. Well, I always have people say, well, how about fear of falling off the cliff? Well, that's not fear, that's respect for the damage that happens if you hit the bottom of the valley. Fear doesn't keep you on the right side of the road. What keeps you on the right side of the road is a respect for the oncoming traffic. That's true in every area of your life. If you allow fear to control your thinking, you're going to be miserable, you'll die young, and have a whole lot of sickness in the process of getting there to the coffin I'm talking about. Fear kills you. It literally poisons you from the inside out. Creates a negative body chemistry that just destroys you from the inside out. So we don't want fear. What we want is love motivation and be able to deal with people and relationships in all areas of our lives based upon a love motivation. So reading fear motivations in other people allow us to lift them above those fears and puts us in a position of leadership and of strong salesmanship. And after all, I trust that's why you're watching me today, is to become more proficient as a manager, become more proficient as a salesperson, become more effective as a dad or a mom or a husband or a wife or a friend. And that's really what we're talking about, is all the relationships that are important to you in your life. Inward, upward, downward, and outward. You remember those? That's early lessons also in this program. So remember that questions open people's minds. Statements can close people's minds. Questions. Anything you want to say it in question format, and you will find that people's minds are open and you will have good communication. Let me say that same statement again. Can you understand that if you ask questions, you're going to open people's minds and have good communication? So I took the same statement that I'd made earlier and turned it into a question. I can even do this. The ability to relate to anyone, anywhere, anytime is based upon your ability to understand their value system and relate to them based upon their values. Can you see how that works for you? You see the question mark I just stuck on the end of my statement? Asking questions open people's minds. And so the difficult person you deal with on a day-to-day basis, that person you hate to even deal with, that person you hope doesn't show up for work tomorrow. How did I know you have one of those? Oh, everybody has one of those. Stop making statements and ask questions. Put everything you say to that person in question format for 1 week and watch what happens. You're going to open up a communication base that's totally been void and it has not been there up to this point. And all of a sudden with a communication base, you have a relationship being established. That's what relationships always start with, good communication. And that's what we're really talking about. Have you noticed that people with fear motivations refuse to make eye contact with you? They look at the floor and they look out windows and they look up at the ceiling when they're talking to you. And the reason they don't make eye contact is because their fear of rejection. What if you don't like me? If you don't like me, I'm going to be able to see it in your eyes. And that's true. You can. Everybody knows when somebody doesn't like them. And you read it in other people's eyes. It's interesting. A dog will avoid looking at you when they're feeling bad, guilty. They've done something wrong. They pottied where they weren't supposed to potty or whatever. A horse won't look you in the eye. Avoid your eye contact. And that's true with all animals. And it's also true with human beings. Eye contact is a personal contact, and it's so personal, it's so penetrating that we avoid eye contact with people that we don't like or that we feel don't like us, or people that have abused us, or people who have used us. Any of the negatives, we avoid eye contact. The interesting part about that is if you turn the eye contact around, it's pretty amazing. I have a lady who's done a lot of bad talk about me. If you want to talk to her, she'll tell you every bad thing I've ever done in my life, and half of her stories, I don't know where she got them. I don't know where they came from. And she just has made it her ministry in life is to put Orv down. And so when I see her, I look her right in the eye and say, "How's it going?" I was just about told you her name. I'm not going to tell you her name. "How's it going?" And I lean forward a little bit even. Lean forward, "Hey, how's it going? Good to see you." And she doesn't know how to handle that because she knows I know that she's been talking bad about me. I can't change her. I can't defend myself. I can't even defend myself to the people she's told all the stories to. Because as soon as I start trying to defend myself, well, of course you're going to say that. That normally means you're probably guilty. It's a no-win situation. So I don't try defending myself with all the stories she has told. I just had a guy recently say, "I met this lady," once again, I almost told you her name, and she said, and she went on and on and on about all the things you've done in your life that are terrible. And I said, "I know. Isn't that something how some people have to put other people down to build themselves up? That's all you can do. And people are going to have to believe it or not believe it, and that's up to them. I can't defend myself because if I defend myself, you're saying, well, you're just defending yourself." And this guy said, "Well, is it all true?" And I said, "If I answer that question, I'm defending myself. You know me, you have to accept me for who I am, and if you can't do that, then probably you don't want to be in any kind of relationship with me. Don't allow people's comments and their opinions of you to control your behavior, your actions and reactions. If they want to lie about you or stretch the truth or even tell the truth, which, if you're a Bible student, Bible says, stop it. Stop gossiping. People who are talebearers. And there's a lot of scripture about don't be that person. And yet, some of the people who do more tale-bearing than anybody else are the religious people in our world. I think it makes them feel good about themselves. If you're worse off than me, then that makes me not quite so bad. So if I can find fault with you, then my faults aren't quite so bad. And incidentally, if you talk bad about somebody, that's not acceptable in God's world. And it's not really acceptable in the corporate world either, because in the process of putting people down, you're putting your company down, you're putting yourself down, you're causing a person that you're talking to doubt whether they want to be very close to you, because if you're talking bad about other people, you'll probably talk bad about me also. You'll find fault with me. Because fault finders find fault in other people to build themselves up in their own mind. It's a self-preservation act. And from a psychological standpoint, if I can find fault with you and fault with you and find fault with all these different people, then I'm not so bad. And I can live with me just the way I am. I don't have to change anything. Just keep being me, because I'm not as bad as that guy. Well, I'm worse than that guy because I'm taking shots at that guy. That makes me worse than him, according to the way it works in our system and what it does for our relationships and what it does to us spiritually, emotionally, and physically. A good handshake. There are people who give wimp handshakes, dead fish type thing. And the problem with that is normally that they just aren't really excited about shaking hands in the first place. They just don't like handshaking, and so they just kind of throw it out there. Something I was taught at a very young age, because I speak all over the country and people want to shake hands with me, is pop that hand right into the small of this here, because if you do that, people can't hurt your hand when they squeeze. If you get it all the way in there, they can't squeeze your hand hard enough to hurt you. But you get it out here where they start crunching the knuckles, put you down on your knees real quick. A good firm handshake normally means I appreciate you in our society. I appreciate you and appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you. It's a greeting. It's an acceptance of that person. A good firm handshake. Arms folded. You've heard this, I'm sure, before, but this means I'm closing you out. And the tighter this goes, and the more it gets up toward my chin, and then if I drop my chin down, now I'm saying, yes, but. I'm butting you like a billy goat. Yes, but. You're not going to get inside my gates. You're not going to get inside my wall. You're not going to get inside my fence. And it's interesting, when people fold their arms, if you start asking questions, their arms come open. And they don't even know they're doing it. And now you have this little smile on your face because you just made them unfold their arms, and they don't even know that you did that to them. There's some real positives with good questions in life, because questions are non-defensive and they open people's minds and make people feel comfortable with you. And as soon as you start asking questions that are generalized, questions that aren't hard to answer, but they help you get to know them a little bit, and they gives them bragging rights maybe a little bit. How long you live in the area? Wow, lovely home. That type of thing is giving acceptance. And when you give acceptance with your questions, that's what everybody wants, is they want to be accepted first of all. I just want to be accepted. You don't have to fall in love with me, but just accept me for who I am. That would be satisfied. I'd be happy with that. So you'll find when you ask questions, people's arms unfold, especially if they're generalized questions rather than focused questions. In other words, I don't say, what makes you be the person you are? I think the folding might get even tighter on that question. But how long you lived in the area? What in the world caused you to move to this part of the world? What is it that caused you to be attracted to the line of work you're in? People love to talk about their work. They love to talk about their children. They love to talk about where they live. Because those are all decisions they've made in life. Their decisions. They made a decision to live in that neighborhood. They made a decision to live in that city. They made a decision to go to that line of work, choose that line of work. They made a decision to marry that person. They made a decision to have children. And when you're talking about their decision making with questions, they feel comfortable answering those questions. So you don't ask uncomfortable questions, you ask very comfortable questions. And the interesting part is 4 or 5 questions will totally open people's minds. 4 or 5 questions. Now sometimes a question will lead to a question, which will lead to a question. How long you lived in the area? What was it that caused you to move to this area? What do you like most about this area? There's 3 questions right there just talking about where they live. How many children do you have? What ages are they? What schools do they go to? Are they doing pretty well in school? I let them do their bragging of, like straight A's and whatever. Those kind of questions make people feel comfortable with you because they're non-attack type questions. They're acceptance questions. I just want to get to know you a little bit. And it causes the arms to unfold. And all of a sudden, we open up like this. Generalized answers. When you ask questions and they give you generalized answers, then pursue the generalized answer. So when they say, oh, we've lived here about 10 years. Oh, where'd you come from 10 years ago? Now we're going to get to some specifics because I want some details. The reason I want details is the more details I get, the more the way they answer the questions, the way they give the details tells me what their motivations are. Remember the 5 motivations. Are they relators? Are they appraisers? Are they exasperators? Every answer, every word of every sentence carries with it a motivation, and it helps me understand how best to relate to that person based upon their frame of reference and their value system. That's what relationship building really is all about. When you have people who are not only folding their arms, but leaning back. Now, I just am thinking about getting out of here, probably leaning toward a door a little bit. If I'm leaning toward a door, this relationship is ending right now. And so you have to start asking some questions rapidly or you're going to lose them. They're going to be gone. They'll find a reason to be gone. Boy, look what time it is. I've got to be gone. Choom, and they're gone. I just about walked off camera here. Got to remember I'm talking to a camera. And then there's the what ifs. Questions that indicate fear. Well, what if it doesn't work? Well, what if it fails? What if it falls apart? What if I invest and the investment goes bad? What if I buy it and it doesn't work for me? What if? And every one of you, I'm talking to you personally, have a whole lot of what ifs that you ask yourself. And you have people asking you questions every day. What if, what if, what if? And you have to answer the what ifs. And you have to look at what is causing the what if. What is the fear behind the what if? There is a fear behind that what if. Let's find out what it is. Another one is yes, but. Yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. And there are people who do yes, but on just about everything you say to them. Well, that's true, but... And what they're doing is looking at the downside. They'll say, yes, that's true. That's above the line. Remember the line? But, and as soon as they say but, guess where they're below the line. Now you got to get them back above the line again. What's your question? That's what I ask. What's your question? Well, what do you mean, what's the question? Well, you said yes, but. What's the but all about? Because when you say yes, but, you're saying, yes, but I'm kind of worried about this over here. I'm kind of concerned about this thought process. Yes, but. You hear it a lot, and it's a psychological block, and it's breaking communication. Remember, you only have one true communication opportunity with every person you meet. You have to treat it as your only opportunity because it might be your last. So to open people's minds, to get them out from behind psychological blocks, to help them understand that you're not a threat to them, is vitally important in every conversation you have. And this is something you can practice on your spouse, you can practice on your kids, because they're going to say these same things. Practice on your employees, and for sure practice on your clients if you're in sales. Because true communication only happens when you get people out from behind the psychological blocks and get them above the line. You remember the line. And you get them above the line with positive responses to your questions. And you keep asking questions. And if you can get 3 positive responses in a row, you have them above the line high enough that you have now established an open mind. If you get them 7 yeses or positive responses above the line, you have actually created a solid relationship. And they feel like they know you and can trust you. The trust level goes way up with 7 positive yeses to questions you ask. And the interesting part is the question is, what school does your children go to? How long you lived in this neighborhood? Doesn't make sense, does it? Well, most of life has its challenges and the question marks. And I have found that the more I study psychology and how people act and react, the more questions I have. But what I'm finding is the questions have answers to them if you search a little bit. And in those answers, you can establish good working relationships with anybody. How to relate to anyone, anywhere, anytime. That's the name of this program, and we hope that we're helping you as you view these programs, each a 20-minute program, to be more effective in your relationships with everybody in your world, including yourself. It's a rewarding thing.